galaxy, from planet to planet and star to shining star, from out of the night and into the light, from the pyramids of Giza to the pyramids on Mars, from ancient feudal Japan to the shores of Hermosa Beach, California, from the ancient antediluvian past to the furthest reaches of the far-flung future, from science fiction to science fact, from government skullduggery and intrigue to hometown shenanigans. Your frequency is ascending. The American Freedom Radio Network is tickled pink, pleased as punch, and more than happy to present the radio program that is the Glass Plus for the windows of your soul, that represents 16.4 billion years of human evolution. That 2 hours of this program is equivalent to a 4-year college education, well, at a public school, of course, but still to that. My guest this evening, we wanted to get right on board on this right away as quickly as we could. We've only got him for an hour, and he is always entertaining, always informative, always earth-shattering. This is a gentleman who is the great-grandson of George Taylor Fulford. In the early 1980s, he went to Japan to study at Sofia University. He received a BA from the University of British Columbia, returned to Japan in the mid-1980s to pursue a career in journalism. He was named head of the foreign financial desk for Forbes magazine, and since then has been an outspoken champion of truth and justice, and well, let's call it the way of peace and brotherhood, if we will. He is a fantastic guest on my program. He is a rogue samurai, a Ronin for truth and justice. He is the honcho and our very, very honored guest, and we are humbly overjoyed to welcome Mr. Benjamin Fulford. Hi, Benjamin. How are you, sir?
Fine, fine. I must say you have quite a talent for hyperbole.
Well, thank you. Well, I think you're worth it, Benjamin. I think you're a fantastically interesting person and have wonderful things to say, and I really appreciate you being on our program. It's usually we take these shows and we turn them into YouTube audio clips, and hundreds of thousands of people. I think our last one downloaded something like 1.2 million people, I think, downloaded it. So we're going to get right to it. We've only got you for an hour. I understand how valuable your time is, and I honor that. So let me let's just get right to it, because I have a lot of burning questions I want to ask you. I know you've got a lot of things to say.
Go ahead.
Okay, first off, my biggest question had to do with just as the two Japanese businessmen in the Cherryassa incident in Italy in February of 2009 were caught on a train. I shouldn't say caught on a train. They literally did not have proper tickets, I believe, to get into Switzerland, but they were carrying
illegally detained. Yeah, they had diplomatic passports.
Okay, they were illegally detained by the Italian government. They had in their possession as diplomatic couriers bonds totaling, I believe it was $135.7 billion. Is that correct?
134.5 billion.
Okay, there you go. So. And now, a couple of really interesting things are coming out now. There are now $6 trillion worth of 1934 U.S. bonds. They've got Woodrow Wilson's face on them. They not only and not only do we have $6 trillion in bonds, but we have the letters of advice that go with them. We have the paperwork that goes with the bonds. We even have the case that says Chicago Federal Reserve on them. And now the U.S. government is claiming that these $6 trillion in bonds, number one, could somehow topple Western civilization as we know it, and that these bonds are fake and or fraudulent, even though there is absolutely no indication whatsoever that they are. Any opinion as to what these bonds are and what they were being used for in Italy? Because, again, it's Italy where they found these bonds again.
Well, it's in Switzerland, actually.
Oh, okay. I was under the impression it was Italy because they kept saying the Italian authorities had these bonds.
They figured them as being located in Switzerland.
Okay.
But then there's the, Lord Blackheath on the British House of Lords specifically put out that Greenspan and those guys stole $15 trillion from, Chinese and Indian royal family. And he provided all the documentation on the record.
Yes.
And you can see that at the British Parliament website,
Okay.
complete with all the details of these bonds. Now, what's happening, I understand, is that essentially the royal families of the world, okay, had, the traditional treasures, which was, gold and jewels and stuff, like you see in the movies. They open a big door and there's a big treasure, right?
Yep.
And then it was physical. It was physical hoards of gold and whatnot. And what happened was they, starting about 300 years ago, these banking families, the Bowers, who renamed themselves the Rothschilds, and a whole crew of these people, all from the same sort of Central Asian Khazarian tribe.
And I thought they were the Habsburgs originally, but it's because they were the Amstels first, and then they changed their name to Red Shield or Rothschild.
So they keep changing their name from generation to generation, so you lose track of them, But
and then the Habsburgs became the Windsors at the turn of the century, so that's what we have in power in England right now.
Well, actually, it was the Battenbergs, not the Habsburgs, who became the Windsors. But anyway,
okay.
What I'm hearing now, I've been contacted by something called the Dragon Family Royal Society. And they claim that they're the alliance of the world's royal families, including, the Queen of England and the Netherlands and various ancient Chinese and Indian and other royal families. And what they're saying is that, these bankers took their gold and then issued, bonds based on that gold way beyond the amount of real gold that actually exists. It's like they sold it, 100 times, the same gold. They open the safes, they say, here's the gold. And the result is that, what happened is these royal families are saying, hey, you know what? We want to cancel the contract with you guys. We don't want you to use our gold anymore. And what that has meant is that the people who print the dollars and the euros in the U.S. and in France, Italy, Germany, England, and half of Switzerland, okay? It's the German and Dutch bankers in Switzerland. These people's money is not being accepted by other people in the world anymore, okay? They're saying you guys are no longer recognized as bankers for the world. And so there's been a serious financial war, which you all refer to as a financial crisis going on here. With those guys controlling dollar printing machines in certain countries and other people controlling dollar printing machines in other countries. And it's like, and literally, I had this guy show up here with U.S. dollars, and he couldn't change them at the bank. They said, nope, these have the wrong serial number. And so what's happened is that the people who own the Federal Reserve Board, they don't have any internationally recognized treaty to give them the right to make money anymore. They've lost it. But they don't want to go quietly into the night, and they're kicking and screaming and doing everything they can to prevent the transition to the new financial system. And so we're upping the pressure on them. We're getting them from all sorts of different directions simultaneously. There's been a lot of resignations, a lot of arrests that haven't been publicized, and the pressure is going to be steadily increased until they finally get their fingers off that printing machine for dollars and stop playing God with us, That's what's going on.
Okay. And the 6 trillion was from
6 trillion, according to my sources, was stolen. Hillary Clinton has them, and she's wanting to use them to become head of the World Bank. Okay. And I don't think that's going to happen, all right?
All right. Okay, question. The next question has to do with our buddy Timmy Geithner. He was actually detained by the, I can't say arrested, but he was detained by the New York police. Now, Judge Napolitano was a commentator on Fox News. And the good judge was saying that Geithner was, in fact, arrested for basically and questioned, not arrested, but questioned and detained by the New York police about a scam that he was pulling back in 2009. Now, it's interesting. I wasn't sure if you were the one that gave the quote. No, that the New York PD said, some guys we have to slap around to get them to talk. Geithner we had to slap around to get him to shut up.
That's basically what I heard, yeah. I mean,
okay. Any information that you have on Geithner? And, of course, now he's in a lot of trouble.
what he said was that, he and Obama both worked for George Bush Sr.
Yes.
So they went to question George Bush Sr., and the story I heard was he then said, look, the guy who's been sabotaging the new financial system is Bill Gates. So then they apparently arrested, I haven't called Microsoft to confirm this, and I'd like somebody over there to do that. Just pick up the phone, call Microsoft, ask the Public Relations Department, and ask them if Bill Gates has been arrested, okay? That's what basic reporting is. You got to check the facts. I mean, the stuff on the internet, it goes round and round. Now, so having said that, my sources who have been reliable in the past told me he was arrested.
He was arrested.
Bill Gates, okay?
Okay, right.
And that he was behind all the sabotaging of the computers for the new financial system. Because remember, this is cyber war. They have computers that create dollars, and the other guys, have computers that generate dollars, and they're constantly trying to hack each other's systems, and then, so that's what's been going on. You can see that in the news, for example, when the European Central Bank announces they've got $500 billion for Greece, and then a couple hours later, the money's disappeared, and they don't have it anymore. You've seen many announcements of money that, if it was real, would have changed the world, and then it just kind of disappears again. That's the sort of visible sign of this ongoing financial war. There's going to be some decisive moves this month. We're rounding up the people who attacked Japan with a nuclear weapon, and any CIA agents in Japan who are involved in that operation, who are listening to this radio show, you have 24 hours to leave this country, okay? But anyway, the other things that is going on is that the hacker group Anonymous has now allied itself with us. So we have the royal families, we have the world's martial arts societies, we have the Asian secret societies, and we have Anonymous, and we have this group called, they're calling themselves the Gnostic Illuminati, who claim they caused the French, Russian, and American revolutions all on our side.
Okay.
So
shoot the Anonymous guys my way. Tell them I'm on their side.
Oh, don't worry. There's going to be something big. Don't worry. When they got something big planned, I can't reveal more than that. But I guarantee you it'll be a jaw dropper. All right.
Okay.
So let's leave it at that.
Well, it is interesting that back in 2004, Bill Gates went to the Bilderberg conference. And supposedly is one of the richest men in the world, and he was tossing his weight around saying, I own Microsoft, and people at the Bilderberg conference were saying, oh, really? Well, I own friends. And it was the only time that he was invited. Then, last year at the Bilderberg conference in Switzerland, they invited Bill Gates again, along with Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, who I grew up next to in Atherton, California, up in Northern California. I actually bought my mother's house when she died. And so we know that they were, and Steve Ballmer as well, because the National Security Agency could not crack the codes to be able to listen in on Skype, and they put out $1 million bounty for anybody that could crack Skype. Then Steve Ballmer turned around, I guarantee you not with all his own money, then turned around and then bought Skype, a company that doesn't make any money, really, for $8.8 billion. So do you think that they are, now you're telling me that Bill Gates is assisting in sabotaging the global money system or the new money system for what purpose exactly? Just to keep the old system in place, or to keep anything new
to keep the old
happening that would help the people?
It's to keep the old group of families, these Khazarian banking families in power.
Right.
They own most of the corporations, and they gained it, illegally. For example, Bill Gates is a prime example. I don't know why IBM shareholders don't sue him. Look, he married the daughter of the Watsons, the founders of IBM, the Nancy Watsons.
Right.
And you think they just randomly gave this lucrative, software thing to a random, university dropout for $100,000? Give me a break. This was ripping off the shareholders to try to keep this in the family. Okay, that guy's no entrepreneur. And he's a criminal. He belongs in jail. And his assets should be confiscated and returned to the original IBM shareholders. Okay, that's how I look at it.
Okay, well, again, I'll make a phone call after this. Pete Carroll is a good friend of mine, and he coaches the Seattle Seahawks, and they technically work for.
Yes, we need more journalists actually, confirming whether or not stuff is true by actually physically calling the places.
Right.
That's the only way to break through this disinformation fog.
Well, and also with, I don't understand why. Maybe they're just all shy because maybe they're all living in their parents' basement or something, and only use the computer. But for people that don't think that Timothy Geithner is saying that he works for George Bush and that they all work for George Bush, have not seen the photos. Literally, that's what I think about 2 weeks ago of GW, George Bush Jr., George W. Bush, and Poppy Bush all sitting in the Oval Office with Barack Obama, having a jolly old chinwag, just yucking it up over something. Kind of a shocking photo from the perspective that supposedly Obama is an anathema to everything that supposedly George Bush and W. Bush and Bush Sr. represent, and yet. They're all having a good time because the real secret is they're all really good friends and good buddies.
Yeah, it's all part of the same cabal.
Yeah.
You say you've got a caller here? Why don't you put them on?
I got a caller? Who's telling me I have a caller?
Type that in here.
No, it's okay. I don't know. It's not up on my screen, so I don't know.
All right. Well, in any case, the other thing I want to mention is just as. Somebody put out an article saying that I've been replaced by a clone as of December 13th.
Well, Ben, wait, we'll find out after this brief commercial message. Has Benjamin Fulford been replaced by a clone, or are they just cloning around?
Welcome to the world's meeting place. American.
It's practically narcotics.
Freedom.
Oh, yes, I like very much.
Radio.
You're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
All right, from sea to sea, from planet to planet, and star to shining star. Really, Rockwell and Michael Jackson. I got to get some new music in here. I don't know. Adam keeps threatening to bring me in like Atmosphere or Little John or Old Dirty Bastard or NWA, or some Wu-Tang Clan or something for the show. Anyway, we're back with Rogue Samurai Ronin, the Honshu himself, which is actually where the word Honcho comes from. I thought it was Spanish, but nope, it's Japanese for Big Boss. The Big Boss himself, Mr. Benjamin Fulford. Welcome back, Benjamin. Okay, just rattling off the questions here as far as...
All right, well, first let me just continue, because I told people about the clone.
Okay.
There was a report out there saying I was replaced by a clone on December 13th.
Have you been replaced by a clone, Benjamin?
Well, if they did, next time I want a younger and thinner one, please, Okay.
So when they replaced you with a clone, they didn't improve the model any, is what you're trying to say.
That's what I'm saying. If they're going to do it, at least give me a better clone, Seriously, because what happened was I got off their grid. They didn't think that was possible. But there are still places where you can get off the grid. They didn't know where I was. I disappeared from their, observation apparatus. I was out of any sort of mobile phone reach, any listening device reach. They're sitting by a stream in the mountains to have a private conversation, and it freaked them out because they don't like to not know where you are and what you're doing all the time. They're information freaks. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, so we're pretty sure you're not a clone because you're not suddenly 10 years younger and thinner, like kind of like Bill Clinton going into the mountains in Montana when he was president and coming out like, I don't know, 50 pounds lighter and looking completely different. All right, meanwhile, Tim Stone, and I'll just throw this out there because I think it's interesting. You were there. This is, once again, we're going to take some shenanigans out of the way here because I want to go directly to the source. Tim Stone has a very interesting website where Mr. Stone is claiming that he will pay $1,000 to anyone who can actually show that there was a building in Japan, a physical building in Japan, that was actually pancaked or flattened or completely destroyed, if you will, by the actual earthquake itself. Now, Mr. Stone, let me just finish this here. Mr. Stone believes that, yes, there was a nuclear weapon that was actually placed in the fissure fault line, if you will, directly off the coast of the upper island, that it was exploded, and that the earthquake itself, he claims, was kind of a hoax, if you will, And that it is interesting because here we did, and this is the point that he's making, we had a 9.1 earthquake, the 5th largest earthquake in human history, an earthquake that actually shifted the axis of the planet by 6.5 inches, an earthquake that brought supposedly the island of Japan some 20 feet closer to the United States, and basically altered the rotational frequency of the planet, actually sped the planet up by several milliseconds.
Yeah, well, look...
and again, his contention being that the only damage that was done was primarily from the tsunami wave and not from an earthquake, that people were standing on top of buildings while the tsunami wave came in, and then a 9.1 quake, that anything that was that powerful should have basically leveled the entire island of all 3 of the islands of Japan, not just caused a tsunami wave of damage. But, however, again, the earthquake actually started on March 9th because there was a 6.4, and then on the 10th there was a 7.2, and on the 11th there was, and then of course it was a 9, and then they upgraded to a 9.1. Any opinions?
Well, look, we know one of the people who was actually involved in smuggling the nuclear weapon that was used. Okay, it's a guy called Peter Stevens. He was the former police commissioner in Hong Kong for the British, and he's an MI6 agent. And he was part of the MI6 CIA Mossad rogue team that brought in a nuclear missile that was taken from the Russian submarine Kursk in the year 2000, and it was used to make several devices that were drilled into the seabed 10 kilometers under the mantle by the drilling ship, the Chikumaru. We have all the proof, and we're actually hunting the people now responsible for this attack. They thought they were above the law. They're not. They're going to jail. They're being hunted. They've got nowhere on this planet they can hide. This was a real attack. We have a member of the Japan Self-Defense Forces team that was involved in planting the weapons who's under our protection. He's a witness. We have recordings of them making offers, for lucrative contracts for cleaning up radiation on March 9th. These offers were made by representatives of J. Rockefeller. We have the Black Pope, Peter Hans Kolvenbach, bragging on the phone that he was the mastermind of the attack on 311 against Japan. And Peter Hans Kolvenbach is a hunted man now. So is J. Rockefeller. They're not long on this planet, I guarantee you. There's some very angry people out in Asia. You don't just murder 20,000 people and say, ha, ha, ha. It's not going to be like that.
Well, I would like to see
but getting back to the earthquake.
Yes, I would like to see something happen to some of these guys. I mean,
it's going to happen. We're tired of talk.
Okay.
We're moving from talk to action. Okay, I'm not going to say believe me anymore. I'm not going to. I'm going to say either we put up or we shut up. We're going into the active mode now.
Okay. Are you still of the belief? And you've made some interesting and very strong guarantees. Are you still of the belief that by the summertime, I think you were saying 6 months, and this was a few months ago, that somebody somewhere, whether or not it was the U.S. military or the White Dragons, were going to, quote, round up these criminals? Do you think that sort of roundup is still going to happen, or are you still guaranteeing that?
Well, we've given them the month of March to surrender.
And who would they surrender to exactly?
Well, that's, to the people of the planet. Well, what our group is saying is that my particular, the White Dragon Society, what we're saying is we want to have a meritocratic economic planning agency. Okay, that's something where anybody can join if they pass the exam with complete freedom of the press. We want a budget of $100,000 each for every man, woman, and child on Earth. We're going to use that money to end poverty, stop environmental destruction, and create an era of unprecedented prosperity and happiness. That's what we're saying, and it's in no way it's not a world government. We're not going to interfere with existing institutions or anything else. But that's what we want to set up to replace this private criminal banking monopoly run by very unintelligent gangsters. That's the system you have now. And there are other groups that also have nice plans, and they're going to get theirs too. There's a group of Pacific nations with all sorts of wonderful plans. I think it's 59 nations, and they're going to have their own separate, wonderful development projects. It's going to be, we were saying, we want that money to be used for human purposes, for the planet, not for a criminal elite. And they've come to us, okay? We're negotiating directly with them. I mean, we're going to start producing really visible things now. It's not just going to be, talk. We're moving beyond that.
Certainly when you have Timothy Geithner, I mean, publicly detained by the NYPD, and you have people like Judge Napolitano actually talking about it on Fox News, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, it's...
let's see what happens with Bill Gates, and let's see what happens with some of these other crooks. They've got nowhere to hide on this planet. They've got no more friends. They've just ruined it, for everybody. And then what I said, the original royal families who gave them, you remember that the first Rothschild, right?
Meyer
money lender in Germany.
In Austria, yes.
Bauer, he went to the local king.
Yes.
Who said he was going to go to war. And he said, hey, if you go to war, I tell you what, I'll lend you all this money, and if you lose, you don't have to pay it back. And if you win, I'd like to be your banker. Okay? And this group of Khazarian criminals became bankers for all the royal families around the world. And that's been going on for 300 years, and the royal families have said to them, you're fired. Okay? This is historical. They say, we're tired of what you've done, and you're no longer our bankers.
Okay.
And that's what's happening, okay?
Now, you're saying this is happening now?
It's happening now.
Simply because of their criminal behavior, them shrinking the laundry of these royal families. And again, I've pointed out on this radio show over and over and over again that what people believe to be a, quote, Jewish Zionist conspiracy that, or the bankers, yes, the banking profession does have a large number of Jews in it, but I point out to everybody that who they're representing are the royal families. Who they're representing are the Queen of England and the King and Queen of Scandinavia and Beatrice and all these royal families going back with these many years, going all the way back to the Rothschilds. All they've ever done is represent the interests of these these massive banking families.
Well,
royal families.
Yeah, what they're telling me, and I'm talking directly to them, okay?
You're going to have to speak in your mic. I can barely hear you.
Yeah, I actually talked to the representatives of these royal families, and what they're telling me is that, they were given palaces and unlimited money and a decadent lifestyle, and they were kind of like absentee landlords, and they realized that they had been conned too. That's what they're saying now, okay?
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
But, more than anything else, it's not about the past anymore. It's about the future. We have the potential now to change this planet in ways that have never been seen before. We have the technology. We have the organizational skills. What's missing is the right sort of institutions to carry this out.
Okay.
We already have, we could change our genes so we could live hundreds of years already, but for some reason we're not allowed to by these crooks. We have to get rid of a lot of the pharmaceutical companies, and I'd also like to know, I'd like to take time to mention to anybody who has shares in Monsanto, sell them. Monsanto is going to be terminated. That corporation will not exist a year from now, I guarantee it. They are murderers and criminals, and they're going to jail. You hear that, Monsanto?
Okay. We're marking down these guarantees, Benjamin, so 1 year from now...
we're tired of talk. It's time for action.
All right. Next question. Because this is Super Tuesday, and because you have all these elections occurring, and again, as my Irish grandmother used to say, if you think voting changed anything, don't you think they would have made it illegal a long time ago? Now, there is a report. Now, I know you're not a big fan of the... and again, we'll talk about this, and I tell everybody to take everything with a huge grain of salt. I know you're not a big fan of the Saoirse Fall website. I know there's some stuff about, that being a front for something. Saoirse Fall did make a statement. I'm sorry? Yes?
Saoirse Fall, I find to be anywhere from 10% to 90% true. I read it every day.
Okay.
To look for hints of, stuff it's naval intelligence. It doesn't always write wrong stuff. Anyway,
okay.
Go on.
So here's my question. Some months back, before a lot of this. It wasn't that long ago. It was not months back. It was we're in March now, so let's call it January. I read a post by Saoirse Fall that was very interesting that said that Henry Kissinger was visiting China, which he was, and that Kissinger made a guarantee to the premier of China saying, I guarantee you that Jeb Bush is going to be president of the United States, and that American and Red Chinese relations will change exponentially when this occurs. He said it's a done deal. It's all set up. Now, that's a pretty strong statement, and I've been saying for quite some time that the way the whole Republican convention is going to play out, that it's going to be a brokered convention. We're seeing this prediction is happening right now, even though Romney's going to win a few states, and this Rick Santorum guy who comes out of nowhere, and
okay, look.
Do you think that Jeb Bush is waiting in the weeds, and do your sources tell you that it's going to be a brokered convention and Jeb Bush will come from out of nowhere?
Well, that's their plan. I mean, look, there's going to be a showdown between the Texan and Chicago mobs over that one, all right?
Okay.
The Chicago mob that put in, Obama, they want Romney. They've decided on him, and the last time they were able to keep Clinton out, who was part of the. I don't know, but the point is that it's not.
Wait! You broke up right there. You're messing around with something. The last time they were able to take Clinton out was what?
Well, I'm sorry. What I meant was that the Bush people wanted Hillary Clinton to become president, not Obama, and they lost out to the Chicago people on that one. Okay?
Correct.
Now they're trying to get Jeb Bush in there. And the Chicago mob will say, no, we want Romney, okay? But the point I'm saying is that you don't have a democracy. What you have is a gangsterocracy, okay?
Yes.
And it depends which gang wins the battle. It's a shame that you can't have Ron Paul, who's actually winning these elections and would already have clinched if they hadn't been leading the polls. But that's the reality. And unless the military does something about it, it's, it's a whole thing to sham, and I don't pay much attention to it.
Right.
I'm sorry to say, and I'm very angered to find out that they've also stole the last election in Canada. Prime Minister Harper of Canada is a wacko fundamentalist hired by the Bushes, and then he's ruined. You got
to come into your microphone. Come into your microphone, Ben.
Yeah, he has ruined 50 years of careful diplomacy.
Okay.
Ruined Canada's image. That man needs to be removed. But in any case, we're going to start at the top. There's going to be things happening next week, and there is a big surprise coming up at the end of March, all right?
We're going to talk about that big surprise. My guests, the rogue samurai, the Ronin himself, the Hancho from Japan, our friend Benjamin Fulford. This is Strange Universe, and we'll be back in a few beats of your heart. From sea to sea, from planet to planet, and star to shining star, from out of the night and into the light, from the pyramids of Giza to the pyramids on Mars. It's a Strange Universe with me, your host, Sean David Morton, the guy so nice they named him thrice, the person who, I don't know, won the World Series of Poker using only a deck of Uno cards once. And I'm back with our wonderful and esteemed guest. We are honored to have him, that Ronin, that rogue samurai, that general all-round erudite fellow, the man who is not a clone, Benjamin Fulford. Also, just let me remind you that Strange Universe Radio is on American Freedom Radio, and we're on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that's if you're listening to this on anywhere out there on, on Roku, on your Roku box, on your Hulu box, on your Hukka box, on, whatever, your Apple TV box, or if you're listening to this on YouTube. So once again, you can also pick us up on strangeuniverseradio.com, and you can order any of my books, Black Seraph, The Dark Prophet, or Sands of Time, which I got to send Benjamin a copy of. Actually, I'm going to get your address and mail you out a copy of Sands of Time for you tomorrow. The book you need all about the conspiracy and all about everything that's going on out there, and we're talking to some fairly big people about turning it into a TV series. Okay, welcome back to Ben Fulford. All right, let's talk about a couple of things. First off, we've got in the time we've got left. You've talked a lot about Japanese gold hoards and Filipino gold hoards, and that many of these gold hoards were going to be used to somehow finance a lot of these world governments. And
well, what I've heard is that World War II was partly about getting a monopoly on all the gold and taking a lot of the gold that was owned by the old royal families out of circulation.
Yes.
And these people say they want to put that gold back into circulation and have a gold-based financial system. Now, I've heard many stories about treasures, but I was in Korea recently, and I said to them, look, I've heard so many stories about treasures, but you need to publish photographs with a recent newspaper showing that you actually do have these hundreds of thousands of tons of gold.
Right.
And they said they will do that, and there'll be someone photographing the stuff next week. But, seeing is believing. The only treasure I have seen was the one in the mountains behind the museum in Taiwan. And that's well documented. They took, 7 trainloads of treasure out of imperial treasure out of China and took it to Taiwan when the communists took over.
Okay.
And that is a genuine, huge treasure.
I had a friend who was in the Philippines a couple of years ago for like 6 months tracking down one of these deals. And he came back with all these pictures. I mean, he came back with, photos of bonds and stacks of gold and bars of gold and silver and all these old treasury notes and bills. And as far as I can see, they're just a bunch of guys, lifting them out of the back of a museum, taking a bunch of photos and giving them to the American suckers who are looking for treasure.
Well, there's a lot of con jobs associated with this, a lot of fake bonds. You just walk the Makati Financial District in Manila, and some kid will come up to you with a story about bonds,
Right.
It's a big scam, but there's where there's smoke, there's fire. There's some real historical stuff there. And we shall see. But, even if they don't have this historical gold, Japan does have a claim to $8 trillion that they've earned since World War II through their export surpluses. And according to the current banking rules, they can leverage that into $80 trillion, which is enough to end poverty and stop environmental destruction. So even if we do not have this gold, we have real backing for this project to, save the planet.
Okay.
In the past 100 years, we've wiped out 30% of species. There's 1.1 billion hungry people. And we have a group of madmen who just can only think in terms of stealing resources and starting wars running this planet. We're telling them they're fired. They're no longer going to be allowed to be in charge. And we're going to enforce it. I'm tired. Like I say, we've got to put up or shut up. And then we're starting to put up. People are being arrested. Things are happening. And they're going to accelerate. And I want to talk about North Korea, because that's one place.
Yeah, let's talk about North Korea. And again, I would not have believed it. You were talking about this months ago, and yet here's the New York Police Department questioning, not arresting, mind you, but detaining and questioning Timothy Geithner about some shenanigans when he was actually head of the New York Federal Reserve Bank. And by the way, Barack Obama worked for, just so people know the connection, Barack Obama actually worked for Timothy Geithner's father. So, and then the connection with him running the New York Federal Reserve Bank and all the shenanigans he pulled there. And people wonder, again, George Bush engineered probably the greatest train robbery, the greatest robbery in human history, along with probably one of the greatest crimes in human history being 9/11. And Barack Obama is the guy who's basically driving the getaway car for this crime and handing trillions of dollars to the financial markets.
Yeah, well, they wanted to set up a new world order, okay? That's the Nazis. And the, what I call the Khazarians, they wanted to rule the world from Jerusalem.
Right.
But both groups were saying, the rest of the world saying, no, we don't want an inbred group of criminal oligarchs to run us, you don't have the right to run this planet, and you're not competent at it, and you're fired. Okay, that's the bottom line. These guys are out. There's no other answer. And they know it. They know that at the very top, they don't have the men with guns to protect them anymore. They don't work for them anymore.
Do you think it's interesting that this year's Bilderberg conference, Switzerland, it was last year, they had a lot of problems getting to Switzerland because of the weather.
Well, they had to leave halfway through to avoid being arrested.
Yeah, they left halfway through because they were afraid that the Swiss were going to serve warrants on people like Henry Kissinger for war crimes. So guess where it is this year? It's supposed to be happening I believe, the weekend of March 23rd, 24th, 25th, and that it's taking place at the Rothschild Hotel in Tel Aviv, in Israel, and that so they're just taking the veil off. They're putting it at the Rothschild Hotel in Israel.
Well, good for them. I mean, they're really they know that their goose is cooked. And it's good for them to come out of the closet.
Well, and at the same time, I'm not sure if you heard the announcement yesterday, but they were going to have the G8 summit in Chicago. And the G8 summit in Chicago, and approximately the same time, the NATO was going to have their summit there as well. And Barack Obama said, no, don't have it in Chicago, where people, of course, will riot and burn the city down and protest these scum power elite meetings.
There is going to be...
They moved it to Camp David. That's what I'm trying to say, Ben. They moved it to Camp David.
Yeah, I know. Let's get back to Anonymous and...
Let's get back to Anonymous. Okay, and tell me about North Korea. Go about North Korea. First, Anonymous. Tell me about Anonymous.
All right, well, let's start with North Korea, because we got rid of their puppet regime there, all right?
Okay.
That's why suddenly Korea says, oh, yeah, no, we don't need nukes, we don't need missiles, that's fine. And Hillary Clinton was freaking out, because, hey, you're supposed to be the bad guys, you're off script, So look at her expression. Well, guess what? You don't control North Korea anymore, Mr. Bush and Clinton, okay? It's not your country anymore. And neither is Japan, okay? You've been fired. That's a fact. And their flunkies are running around like chickens with their heads cut off. We're getting them. Okay?
So now you're talking about a financial alliance between North and South Korea. I mean, isn't this just going to lead to... They're going to give the North Korean leader a mansion or a Playboy lifestyle and some kind of formal title, and they're going to unify. Okay, is this good or bad for South Korea? Because if it's the same as the unification of East and West Germany, you and I both know that's good for Korea for a period of years. It's good for the Korea. Though the Rothschilds, they want to set up a giant new financial center in Busan, Korea, right? To start major development projects around the world. And as long as they agree with the economic planning agency that we want to set up, if they want to do good banking, we'll let them. We're not out to get revenge and settle scores. But let's see what they say. They've got to come out public, though. They've got to stop, being sneaky. They've got to come out of the closet and be and honest for a change. And what about the new financial city in Tenri City? Well, that would be the new. That would be the one our group is pushing for, which would have $80 trillion budget to end poverty and stop environmental destruction and get us out into the universe. Now and we're going to do it. The fascinating part about this is that I've been talking about Tenri City for 30-plus years, where I tell people that it is my belief that Tenri City, directly in the middle of it, there's a religion called Tenrikyo, which is an offshoot of Shinto Buddhism, which we're talking about Oyama, but it's the sixth chakra of the planet. It's the third eye of the world. Yeah, but it's not going to be Tenri City. It's going to be Akashi. It's going to be that general area because it's got flat, undeveloped land close to the ocean. You can't move it to Osaka. Osaka's jam-packed full, and there's too much happening in Tokyo already. So, we're going to start actually hiring people and actually, getting things happening. Okay, we're going to go to the Bank of Japan next week, and we're going to confront them and say, all right, enough's enough. And if that doesn't happen, there's going to be a steadily accelerating pressure. It's going to increase and increase until it actually leads to full revolution if they don't move off the stage. Well, I could use a job, Benjamin. So keep me in mind. There'll be jobs for everybody. The money will pour like rain. You have to go right now, or can you stick around a little while? I'll stick for one more section. Okay, let's do one more segment because we're going to talk about Anonymous. When we get back, there's all kinds of stuff. It's a strange universe, and we'll be back in about, 87 human breaths. Count them. From sea to sea, from planet to planet, and star to a shining star from out of the night and into the light. This is the five-star general of Generation Y, the admiral on the oceans of truth and justice. It is Strange Universe. Unafraid to click the Berkey banner. Can be used as a nightlight or a camp light. Marinated for weeks in a special sauce so you can taste the difference. With me, your host. Oh, my goodness. If we were to pat you on the back, you'd list it on your resume. When in Rome, they do as he does. He's won trophies for his game face alone. Police often question him just because they find him interesting. That would be me, Sean David Morton. Welcome back to Strange Universe. Of course, my honored guest, and we are always fabulously happy to have him. That Ronin, that rogue samurai, that fighter for truth and justice, Benjamin Fulford. All right, Benjamin, let's talk about the people in Anonymous in this section. We got you for one more section here, and we'll go into some things. Let's talk about Anonymous, because Anonymous has given you their support. I'm a big supporter of what they've been up to recently. And again, if you're starting some new media empire, I mean, you need a screenwriter and talk show host and independent film director.
I mean,
let me know.
We do need to get professional journalists.
Close in on your microphone, because every time you do something, you crunch the microphone, and then I can't hear.
Professional journalists, people who are paid a salary to actually go to where the government operates and to the corporations and directly get information, not just scoop it off the net. And that requires a physical body, which requires rent and food. So yeah, we will set up a system where there will be a professional, new, international network of journalists who will only be answerable to the truth. If they can prove it, they can put it out. Okay?
Well, when I worked as a producer on, was one of the original creative producers on Strange Universe, and then when I worked as a freelancer for Hard Copy for a couple of years, when we broke stories on, let me see, Area 51, the Chupacabra, TWA Flight 800, the conspiracy behind the death of JFK Jr., the Princess Diana.
Well, look, anyway, that's still right now. What's happening is we're pushing the Federal Reserve Board. We're proving them to be based on fraudulent documents, that they don't have the right to create money, and that's what's happening on one front. Now, Anonymous is up to something else. I cannot tell you what it is, but I guarantee you it's going to really blow your minds, okay?
Well, this whole massive release of information today by Stratfor, Strategic Forensics, which, again, I was talking about on Monday with Alex Jones being directly connected to them, this huge download of information recently. Did Anonymous have anything to do with that? Because it's all over the news with all these newscasters going, we don't even know who these people are. Who is Stratfor exactly? And of course, they're they're primarily, if you really want to talk about Israeli intelligence and, the Mossad, it's them. And, again, they came out with this whole thing about bin Laden's body and how it was really...
Yeah, look, bin Laden, one of the members of SEAL Team 6, defected in Manila. He got off the ship, and he came to our group saying the whole thing was a fake, and he provided proof that whole operation, so-called Kill Bin Laden, and we have him in protective custody, okay? We know that's a fake story. It's almost, the problem is that people who are still watching all that disinformation, are living in a fantasy world. And these people, I go to the Drudge Report and I look at what the corporate media is turning out, and these guys, they don't seem to understand that the plug is being pulled, that, they're being outed. It's just over. They're finished. That's a fact.
Well, you do have people like George Soros, chortling about the fact that well, not the fact, but, chortling about him saying that, again, that the United States is going to go into a Soviet Union bankruptcy-style a la 1989 meltdown, that there will be fighting in the streets by this summer, that the United States is going to break up into, and this isn't Soros saying this, I was saying this years ago, that you're going to see the U.S. break up into 6 separate geopolitical regions that will then eventually become a 13-nation-state confederation. But Soros is talking about there being blood in the streets and open revolution by this year.
Sources are telling me that the Chinese, Russian, and U.S. militaries are already working together to prevent such a scenario, okay?
Well, I would think they would be more concerned about which way the United States is going to jump on Iran, because the way I see it is again, the only thing, I even hate to say this.
I'm sorry. Ahmadinejad is a Mossad agent, okay?
Okay.
He's a Jewish Mossad agent, and this whole idea of starting World War III between Iran and Israel is not going to happen, okay?
Okay.
I don't know who they think they're fooling, because they're not fooling anybody. The whole world has said to these people, we're tired of your stupid, crazy, murderous shows and wars, and it's not going to happen. All right? They're not going to, do that. They're not going to start World War III. The only thing that will happen is if they try to do that is they'll be killing themselves. Nobody else.
They certainly have enough of the American people fooled that they can raise the price of gas to, as I predicted, $5 a gallon probably by Memorial Day, and somehow get away with it.
If these people don't give up, you're right, okay? There are going to be riots in the streets. There's going to be banking families dragged out of their homes and strung up from lampposts by angry mobs.
One can only hope.
That is what's going to happen to these people if they don't move over, and right away. They're not, but that's not going to happen. The U.S. military is not going to allow Americans to kill other Americans. They're not going to allow anarchy. They're not going to allow the descent into chaos, okay? I guarantee you that. They're not moving now, but when people start shooting or dying, you can be damn sure they'll go in there and they'll stop it.
Now, who do you see as the prime?
And then they know what they're doing. There's something happening. There's something big being cooked, okay?
Okay, who do you see as the prime movers behind this in the Pentagon, as these people who are going to take this?
Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Okay. Because we know that Admiral Fox Fallon...
A lot of them have these Vatican bribery bank accounts. There's so much pressure from the ranks that they cannot do anything except go along with creating a new system. And they're backing it because they will be financed, and they know that. And if you have a Soviet Union collapse-style scenario like George Soros is hoping for, you would end up with generals suddenly working as taxi drivers, and the generals aren't going to let that happen. They're going to put George Soros in jail before they're going to go drive a taxi, It's the whole thing is going to fall apart. The emperor's naked. These guys have run out of friends. They've run out of money, and they've run out of lies. Well, they have run out of lies, but no one's believing them anymore except a small rump of brainwashed Westerners, okay? Maybe 40% of the public in the Western Europe and the United States still believes they're garbage. Everybody else doesn't. And that includes the rest of the world. The people of the planet are sick and tired of these criminal goons making a mess of a beautiful place that we all share. I guarantee you, this year, once we get started, we're going to end poverty. We're going to stop environmental destruction, and we're going to release technology that has been withheld from us for the past 60 years. And it's going to be wonderful, all right? I want to end on a very positive note because we are going to save the planet. We're going to start a new era, new age, not a new world order. A golden age, an age of prosperity, an age of happiness, an age of wisdom. And all this paranoia, all this fear, all this sort of manipulation that they've been using is going to end. We won't have any enemies to be scared of anymore. They need fear, they need greed, they need negative emotions to control you, and we're removing all that negativity. And they better understand that. Their tools aren't working anymore. It's just not going to happen.
Do you see this as obviously the banks are collapsing, the Greeks are going down, Italy's going down. Although at the same time,
Italy and the Greeks and the Italians are telling the bankers to take their debt and stuff it where the sun never shines.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the Spanish have said the same thing. We're not paying you. And the Hungarians kicked out the Rothschilds. And the Irish have said, hey, we don't owe you anything. That's all fraud. Okay.
Yeah.
Any talk you hear about a Greek bailout is the bankers trying to bail each other out with money that doesn't exist. All right.
Right. Exactly.
It's like the way I look at it, okay, I know that the toilet has been flushed, and I know that the stuff is spinning around and it's heading down that hole, and there's nothing they can do about it. We pulled the plug on them.
Well, that's the one thing I try to point out to everybody out there is they talk about, quadrillions of dollars worth of debt when there's only $75 trillion worth of actual stuff on the planet.
Yeah, no, all the debt's going to be written off. There's going to be a jubilee. There'll be no more private or corporate debts or government debts. It's a one-off thing. There's going to be a jubilee, okay?
So does that play out in such a way that everybody that already has a house or has property, does somebody just get up on the TV one day and say, okay, everything you've got in your possession. I mean, there is a way to do this. Theoretically, they could spike all the computers and all the records will go away. And somebody says, well, if you're living in a house now, it belongs to you because now we can't figure out what belongs to what. And you just get to keep everything that you physically have.
Anything where there's a paper trail, okay, if you have a deed, shows you paid for it, you're going to keep it. Even if it's a rental apartment you're renting to somebody. But if it's a loan, it's going to be written off. And the other thing is that a lot of the corporations that were illegally taken over by these people are going to be returned. A lot of the corporate ownership controlled by these Federal Reserve Board gangsters that they got illegally through fiat money is going to be confiscated, and that's going to be returned to the people. I don't think they're just going to hand you a check because they tried that in Russia, and all the money ended up in the hands of a few criminal oligarchs. But
well, that was once again David Rockefeller.
Yeah. No, they're going to hire some very smart people to manage that on your behalf. All right.
All right.
It's going to be like an annuity, but it's going to mean at the end of the day, people who don't want to work won't have to work. They want to spend all day making sculptures and paintings. They can do so. Everybody will have rights to a house, food, education, and a minimal income, no matter if they work or not. But obviously, the people who work will get more. And I guarantee you that if you don't work, you're going to end up bored after a while.
Is there a Messiah coming, Benjamin? Do you see somebody as a savior of mankind?
I think mankind is going to save itself, all right? The Messiah is going to be humanity waking up and saving itself. It's going to be the awakening of the collective consciousness of the planet Earth. The Messiah is a mental state. It's a freedom from slavery. It's a freedom from ignorance, freedom from fear, freedom from war. It's a way of people suddenly saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to make a better planet starting right now.
Do you think that's what 2000?
The mind change among humans. That's what it is.
Do you think that's what 2012 is all about? Do you think that's what's happening now?
Well, I think we should make it happen. I am tired of waiting for a giant spaceship to come out of the sky and save us. I'm tired of waiting for the Messiah to come and save us. We just got to save ourselves. And then later, if the Messiah comes, great. In the meantime, let's do it. We can do it. We have all the technical abilities. Right now, we have the ability to make ourselves immortal. We have the ability to stop environmental destruction. We have the ability to go out into the universe. We're not using it because we're run by a bunch of criminal gangsters who are very stupid and have made a mess of this planet and are being fired as we talk.
Well, there's a few people out there like Foster Gamble and various other people who seem to be more concerned about making $9-10 million videos than taking their fortunes and helping people. If you have the patents on this technology, if you have this technology, if you approach some of these trillion-dollar people to start putting corporations together that could possibly save us all?
We're starting to put out that technology. It's going to be done in a way. It's like taking a kid off breast milk. You got to start one feeding at a time. You don't want to just suddenly destroy all the old corporations and systems with this new technology. It's got to be done in such a way that it does not cause any losers to emerge. We want this to be a win-win thing for everybody.
Yeah, because that's going to be the big challenge, isn't it? Is that once you create this new world, what's going to happen? How do you re-educate everybody? How do you create this new utopia?
Well, it's an old saying, but it's a good one. The truth shall set you free. People will learn the truth, and at first they're going to be angry, and then they're going to be very, very happy. They're going to be very relieved. They say, oh, my God, I'm free now. The slavery has ended. It's going to be wonderful. But, there's a lot of hard work between here and there, and that's what we've got facing us this year. It's going to be a year of hard work. But then it's going to be a new planet.
You got a parting shot, Benjamin? We got about a minute left. You got one final thing?
From now on, the dominant theme of this planet is not going to be fear. It's going to be love. Okay?
There you go. Well, Benjamin, look, we've been looking for you for a while with all these things coming along. I just want to say thank you for being a friend of the show.
There'll be announcements on the 13th, okay, from Anonymous and other groups on a video put out here, okay?
Okay, well, let me know if any of those people want to come on this program and make those announcements from here. Benjamin, God bless you, my
I'll
friend.
hook you up with this Illuminati group, okay?
That would be fantastic. I'd love to chat with him.
Okay, bye.
All right, Benjamin. Sayonara. Thank you very much. Much respect. All right, Benjamin Fulford.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.